Now, if you are a PC gamer, you've probably noticed that there's been a bit of a trend over the last couple of years when it comes to monitor technology. It's getting really f***ing expensive. So today I am talking to the PC gamer who wants something more than a super basic no-frills 60 Hz panel. And to do that, we are going to be taking a look here at the Nixeus, if I can get the whole thing in the freaking panel here, the Nixeus NX VUE24A 144 Hz, 1 millisecond response time AMD FreeSync gaming panel. Yeah, that's a mouthful. And I'm not really that strong. It's not in the box, it's right there. I mean, you didn't think I was that strong, did you? The Master Case 5 and Master Case 5 Pro from Cooler Master combines modularity with creativity, giving you the freedom to build it your way. Make it yours by clicking the link down in the description. Now, I could spend all kinds of time just going through all of the specs of this monitor, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to waste your time with a bunch of boring numbers. If you're a numbers geek like I am, just look in the description of this video and I will list out all of the specs so you could know what the max brightness looks like and all of that sort of stuff. But on the high side, this is a 24-inch TN panel. Yeah, I know the TN is going to make some people kind of go, ugh, but hear me out on this here. In order to keep things priced competitively and give you the best bang for your buck, TN panels are still where that price point technology is going to be. But we will talk about some of the color uniformity and some of the off viewing angles and stuff, and whether or not it's really bad. It's actually not. I've been using this panel now for over 2 months, and I think it does a fantastic job, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But when it comes to the viewing angles, it's 170 degrees horizontal viewing angle and 160 degrees vertical. So it's got near 180 viewing, but as you guys know with TN panels, as you get towards the edges of those viewing angles, then it's going to start to get more color shift, and as TN tends to do. But it is an LED backlit panel, and they're advertising a 1 millisecond response time for gray to gray. That's the amount of time it takes for the pixel to go to full off, which is technically gray, to full brightness, white, and then back to gray. Now, it's also featuring a 144 Hertz refresh rate, which is how many times the screen can actually in sync, and that's not the music group, by the way. 90s are that way. That's basically how many times the screen can refresh the image and keep everything together without tearing, or in this case, a hertz is how many times per second. So 144 times a second, this screen can draw an image without tearing it apart. And then on top of that, it features AMD FreeSync technology, which does a better job at keeping things in sync than just vertical sync. Now, the AMD FreeSync in here is adaptive from 30 Hertz to 144 Hertz. So that means that regardless of how much your FPS is bouncing around, the AMD FreeSync technology built into the panel is going to keep things nice and buttery smooth. But the built-in adaptive FreeSync does have a effective range of 30 Hertz to 144 Hertz. Now, pretty much all the high-end panels out there now are featuring, QHD and Ultra HD, IPS high refresh rate, low response time, super accurate color gamut. And it's just one of those things that a lot of gamers aren't going to need and necessarily notice. Now, if you were a professional content creator or a photo editor, then you're going to want the super high accuracy color recreation that IPS panels offer. But if you're a gamer, that's probably not going to matter to you nearly as much. Now, at the time of making this video, the panel comes in at under $300. And the reason why I mention that is the fact that that is a pretty good price point considering all of the other panels that are featuring either G-Sync or even FreeSync on other manufacturers are coming in way more expensive than that. So you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck at under $300. Now, it does feature built-in speakers, but as you guys know, built-in speakers really aren't great on panels. So it's there, but I wouldn't use that as your main source of audio, trust me. But it's got a DisplayPort 1.2A, which you have to use if you want to take advantage of the FreeSync, and it has HDMI 1.4 in there, as well as DVI-D and a 15-pin VGA port, which nobody should ever be using. Why would you buy a gaming panel and use VGA? I mean, seriously. But honestly, none of that matters if it's not a good gaming experience. And your panel has a lot to do with your overall gaming experience. So let's turn around here. Let's take a look at the refresh rate. Let's move some stuff around on the screen, do the best we can to really tell you about this panel when it's just a camera pointing at the screen. It's not going to do it justice. But there are some things to mention with this panel that are definitely worth talking about. For instance, light bleed on this thing is near non-existent. I mean, there's no way the camera pointing at it is going to be able to pick up the lack of light bleed, which LED and LCD edge-lit panels are notorious for. That just doesn't exist with this guy.
Transition.
Now it does have some built-in cable management here at the bottom. Unfortunately, the way the cables come off and have to go through that hole being at the bottom, they're going to be visible. I would have liked that hole to have been higher up in the back of the panel. That way this wouldn't have been sticking out right there. But it is a height adjustable panel, and it's a pretty decent stand, and it's actually very, very sturdy. There's a button here that you push with your thumb, and then you can move it up and down. And you have a pretty good amount of height adjustment in there. And then of course it can rotate 90 degrees. My cables need more slack to be able to do it, but it does rotate a full 90 degrees if you want to use it in portrait mode instead of landscape mode. And that's important for, you know, people who want to do programming and stuff on a panel like that, but whatever. It's very, very sturdy, and of course it does rotate quite a few degrees, and then it angles up, and then it angles down. Now in terms of color banding, as you can see, the gradient on here is very, very, very smooth. Some of the lesser quality panels tend to have a lot of jaggedness when it comes to the amount of banding. I'm actually not sure what the official term is for that, but you can see here the gradient is very, very smooth. And when it comes to light bleed, man, this is one of those things that's definitely hard to do with a regular camera pointing at the screen, but I can tell you right now that the screen is on. I know it doesn't look like it, but the screen is on. And you know, in fact, you can tell because the mouse is right there. But a lot of times, LCD and LED panels tend to have a lot of light bleed either on the top or on the bottom or in the corners, kind of shooting out from the corners. This does not suffer from that. And it's absolutely incredible how well they've built this panel on a TN technology with LED and does not have any light bleed. This is one of those things, you just have to take my word for it. The camera doesn't pick it up nearly as justified as it is in person. I was blown away by how little light bleed there was compared to some of the more expensive panels that are just bleeding all over the place, literally like a gunshot victim. Now it does have an on-screen display that you can use to adjust things like brightness, contrast, gamma, DCR. You can do color temperature, custom calibrations if you want. When you hit the menu, it even tells you which current resolution, input, and refresh rate is. So in this case, it's 144 Hertz. We do have AMD FreeSync enabled in Catalyst Control Center, or whatever they're calling it these days, I don't even know. And then you can control your horizontal, vertical, on-screen display settings, timeout, so that the screen turns off if it's not, receiving an input over a certain amount of time. And then volume control and a master reset. Now it's all controlled via physical buttons that actually stick out the bottom of the screen and are labeled here with correspondent, raised hieroglyphics, if you will, so you know which button you're pushing. Again, unlike a lot of high-end panels where it's all capacitive touch and you don't know which one's which, you're just guessing. And there are panels out there that cost over $1,000 that have terrible button placement and integration, so bravo on that. Now it is a TN panel, so as you start to get towards that off viewing axis, you are going to notice that color shift, and that is something that is very notorious with TN. You just can't get away from that. It's just the way the panel is. But most of the time you're going to be sitting directly in front of your monitor, so it really shouldn't be a huge deal. Now I'm actually very impressed with the color uniformity, and that coming from someone who's been using IPS panels for a while now. And considering this is out of the box and I haven't done any sort of calibration on this, the colors actually don't look bad. They don't look washed out, and they don't look like other TN panels, which are just ridiculously oversaturated. It looks really, really good. Now the way that you can tell that the 144 Hertz refresh rate is working is as you move this thing around the screen. My camera can't even capture the movement. It looks like it's flickering on camera. It's not. It's just the frame rate and the shutter speed of the camera are not fast enough to actually pick up this smooth movement. Now all you got to do to make sure the FreeSync is turned on is go into your AMD Radeon settings, go into the display tab, and then make sure the AMD FreeSync is turned on right here. And it is reporting a 30 to 144 Hertz refresh rate, so we're good to go. And one of the things I really like about this panel is the fact that it is a non-glare display. So it is a matte display, which is not going to be causing you all sorts of reflections and stuff, which some 4K panels and other gaming panels do. Most are not doing that anymore, but I do like the matte display. It does cause the colors to be a little bit less vibrant, but that's okay because I would rather see, ow, sons of bitches. Bam. Oh, you too. The refresh rate obviously is very, very smooth, as you would expect. We are getting right now 111 FPS. Our average is 107. Our minimum is 93. I want to see here, if you guys are curious, my AMD R9 390 from MSI, the 8G version, is running right now at 69C. Fans are at 1444 RPM, and the GPU is at 100%. All that's right here. That's the NZXT cam software that's doing that. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a lot of quick spins and stuff to try and see, and yes, I use motion blur. I like motion blur. Don't judge, don't hate. If you don't use it, don't use it. Don't tell me not to use it. I want to use it, so therefore I'm using it. But it's very, very smooth. I'm not getting any sort of tearing or stuttering whatsoever. That's pretty ridiculous, right? I mean, that's a ridiculous amount. My FPS is 125 while it's doing that. I'm not getting any tearing. I am very, very pleased with this. Now, I think the bottom line here is it really doesn't make sense to spend a ton of money on your panel if you don't have like super high-end hardware to go along with that. Now, most gamers don't fall into these super rich, super high-end PCs. Super enthusiasts have to have the latest and greatest, most expensive, overpriced piece of equipment on the market. That's my job. But if you're a gamer, specifically one with an AMD graphics card wanting to get a better gaming experience without breaking the bank, then you can definitely consider the Nixeus VUE24 panel to be one of those that definitely fits the bill. Now, there's been very few panels that I've ever truly recommended, and I think that this is one of those, and I'm really glad I chose to take a look at it. Now, I'll be honest, it's one of those brands that I never really paid a whole lot of attention to, but I'm glad that I did because it really opened up my eyes at how far panel technology is coming and how inexpensive it is starting to really become, and it makes it more affordable and obtainable towards the average Joe PC gamer, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get back to some of those more average roots when it comes to showing you guys things that you can actually obtain. It's like watching videos about Ferraris. It's really nice, but after a while you go, you know, I'm never gonna own a Ferrari, and this is just depressing. But if you were in the market for a 1080p, high refresh rate, low response time panel with FreeSync, and you have an AMD graphics card, so you can take advantage of that FreeSync, but even if you don't have an AMD graphics card, you can still take advantage of the high refresh rate, then the Nixeus VUE24 needs to be on your short list. I'm really glad I took a look at it, guys. Thanks once again for Nixeus sending me this panel, and of course, thank you guys for checking out today's video. Speaking of video, if you guys are interested on some of the car stuff that I do, I have rebranded and relaunched my vlogging channel as a both vlog and car channel where you guys can see more of what I do on the side of just the PC stuff, and it's definitely worth taking a look at, especially if you want to see a guy like me who's pretty mediocre and average when it comes to knowing how to use power tools, hand tools, and work on cars. Really, every video is probably going to include the title of idiot because, yeah, that's kind of what I am. Anyway, time to get out of here, guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Is he pink? Is he pink? Oh? Ah. Ah. You trying to take the camera? He's trying to take the camera. He's trying to take the camera. Oh. I bumped your head. I'm sorry.